rubber on the model room welcomes all. Thanks for stopping by, answering the call. Ups and downs are normal for some of us. Many days I beg to get off this life bus. Neon lights flicker, my shadow on the wall. Dreams on the ceiling, we run and then we fall. Sharing stories over paper cups. Wheels keep turning but never enough. Life's a ride on a rickety old track, holding on tight, never looking back. In the rubber and mono room we confide, rock, cry, love, and this crazy ride. Dusty postcards from the edge of nowhere, heartbeats echo in the electric air. We dance on tables without to wait, cry in the rubber and mono room, we're all high.
It was only like $20. Hey guys, hey, welcome in, welcome in. Look, see, I gotta figure this out because this chair is shorter than my other one. Okay, we're having a early day. I was pushed the stream off till later. Then I decided, nah. I seen all y'all sitting here and I had no makeup on. So I just slapped a little bit of face on and said, we're gonna roll with this shit because we're just here to chat today. This jury is still deliberating. I got some stuff though we're going to talk about before we get into the civil documents that we're going to read. So I want y'all to tell me what you got, and then I will greet everybody and send out thank yous because somebody already dropped some membership.
Get ready for the ride. Buckle up tight. Grab your snacks and enjoy the show.
Well, good afternoon. It is 2:45, something like that. Yeah, we're starting late. We're going to do this because as of, I need to figure out how to make this chair go up. Hang on. Y'all are fixing to see me do all kinds of work. This chair is, there we go. This damn thing. I knew this thing would raise up, y'all. Y'all look. See, I knew this thing would raise up. And we're in Stroud today because it is Friday, and that's another reason I decided to go ahead and hit that live button and go a little bit earlier was because there's a football game tonight. Starts at 6 p.m. and Hector's fixing to go make a run, get everything prepped and ready because we're gonna watch some football. So, and I couldn't even type this morning, and Abellis was the first one here. Good morning, everybody. And there is Miss Muffins. She's already here. I seen Southern somewhere. Southern. Yes, I did see the eclipse. Actually, I put part of my you took a bunch of pictures too. On my if you are a member, any tier level, I do put things under my memberships. It's more of my personal stuff like that. And I did put out some pictures of, I tried so hard to get a picture of that moon last night and it did not work. And it was so cloudy. It was so cloudy. I was texting back and forth with the hand. I was like, oh, I can't get it. So yeah, see, look, read on, Sheila, read on. Yeah, it was cloudy. And then I tried to type in the chat, tell you I was getting ready, and y'all know how that, now I feel like I'm too high. Okay, that's better. All right. And then Abellis, sweet Abellis, brought memberships, and those went to Karma Princess, Q1B, and Beth 104, Journey to Get There. Oh, Journey, I haven't seen her in a little bit. The JFT3 official, okay, and Anders. Oh my gosh, we haven't seen Anders in forever. I wonder how he is. Thank you so much, Abellis. And for that, you know.
Just wanted to say thank you for everything you do.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm in a really good mood today. Yeah. Oh, look, y'all see, I'm not reading. See, look at that. Shut up. Are you kidding? Abellis? Abellis, you have to be kidding. And then Southern popped back with I Want a Moose. Oh, there's Robin. There's Robin. She was my first high tier membership. Good morning, Robin. How are you? I hope you're having a blessed day. Oh, so what else y'all saying? Oh, you did see that picture. Okay. I'm just over here reading chat. Oh, it's a joke. Okay. See. Okay, I'm caught up now. See, I'm reading chat. I'm over here. I'm squirreling already, y'all. We haven't even got started. We have no trial to watch, but we have lots to talk about. So let me, y'all. Okay, see, I believe things. Okay. See, this is why I had to read for a minute because Abellis is over there pulling my leg and shit. Let's see. Okay, we're gonna start with this. Let's see. Let's take the media. Cut this off. We don't need this today. We don't need that today. We don't need that. Okay. So, am I supposed to believe you? I'm curious, Southern. And we only have horizontal today, so we don't have no vertical that we have to worry about. I'm not doing vertical today. Just was not going to do it. Not going to do it. So look, I want to show y'all this. I peeked in, as always. I'd be peeping in at Long Crime, because I've been listening all day. It's true. Okay. All right. All right. So I've been peeping in all day at Long Crime, because I'm waiting for verdict, which we have none yet. And this is where they were standing as far as the chats goes, and that's 62,544 votes. And y'all see the percentages of what people have voted, which I thought was kind of interesting. Okay, so let's go over here. So, do y'all remember Avram Mack?
I have nothing further. Thank you.
Anything further?
Just briefly, sir, are you suggesting that my office had any control over when you were able to go visit Lindsay in the hospital?
Objection.
Overruled.
I don't know if your office was involved, but I imagine, so I don't know.
You don't know.
I imagine your office was aware.
Thank you.
Good enough.
But
You don't know.
Doctor, I think you've answered the question. All right, next. Anything further? Anything further, Coma? All right.
Well, for an update on that, Avram Mack. Good Lord, what are the other pop-up things? Avram Mack, I can't, if I click on this link, it wants me to pay for a subscription. Sorry, not going to do it. But here's just the down low. The down low. Down low is in the aftermath of several heated moments during his testimony in the Lindsay Clancy murder trial. Psychiatrist Avram Mack is no longer employed by the Delaware Children's Health System, and official confirmed today. Mack's resume submitted during the trial listed him as a psychiatrist at Nemours Children's Health in Delaware since 2023. So, if you click on the link, it doesn't take me anywhere. So, but I did pull it up over here, and I do have, yes, it goes, if you click on it, it says page not found. He's no longer employed by Nemours Children's Health. However, officials have not confirmed whether he was resigned or fired. It just says as of August 28, 2026. Now, if we go over here, which we're going to back it up because they were talking about it. They were just talking about it, and I would, come on, here. Okay, here it is. Wait. Okay. And of course, y'all lost sound. This brother's the last Oscar show. And look, see, while I'm over here squirreling, trying to find that, I got flowers. I got flowers. Yes, I know. And mommy has an arm on her chair, so you can't just jump up here in my lap now. The baby can't jump up in my lap. Okay, so they were talking about the fact that Abram Mack is no longer showing up employed. And as y'all see right here where the clock is, we're almost at 10 hours of jury deliberation, and we have nothing yet. So they did come in, they asked about the knife, and they asked about they asked about the knife, and they asked about the medications. They wanted to see those two, and those were the two. They came in with the one question, and that was what the questions were regarding, was the knife and the medications. And it's been kind of funny listening to some of these people talk. These guys, I will have to say, listening to a lot of other people discuss this has really made me think reform needs to be made, because I hate to be rude, and the only way I can put it is ignorance that a lot of people have to mental health issues. I went into a chat this morning. Is my shirt on backwards? No shit. My shirt is on backwards. Y'all, I've lost my mind. Be right back. Okay. 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 Sorry. I'm so sorry. I looked down and I seen Stroud, and I'm like, well, I've never seen the word Stroud on the front of this shirt. What the fuck is this? Oh, y'all, I tell y'all, it's a great day to be alive. Yes, that's it. That's what it was. That's what it was. The shirt had me on backwards. It is football Friday. It is football Friday. Okay, okay. So let's go through. We're going to start reading this. And I don't know what everybody brought, but I have my chicken broth, and that's simply because a lot of talking, and y'all know my mouth. I'm always drinking something. So let me get a big sip before we. Absolutely, Robin. Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. So let's start reading. Okay, so this is the amended complaint, because the first one came through and then they have amended one. This was the amended. This is the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Norfolk versus this is a Superior Court document, civil action number 28. I'm sorry, I can't even read. 2682 CV 0081. Lindsay M. Clancy, plaintiff, versus Jennifer Tufts. We got to see her. Alia Goodhart. We got to see her. Zobita Diaz. I don't remember that one. Rebecca Jollotta. We saw her. Aster Mental Health. South Shore Health System. McLean Hospital. And Women's and Infants Hospital of Rhode Island as the defendants. Okay, I'm going to move this over here so I can read it. So I'm not going to be able to see chat while I read for a little bit. So y'all just listen, do y'all's thing, put me in your ear. If you want to read along on your screen, your big TV. I seen Hannah pop in too. Hannah Banana. Hi, at work. so lurking. So she's listening to me. So I'm reading to Hannah today. So that's what I'm doing. I'm reading to Hannah, y'all. Okay. So this is a First Amendment complaint and jury demand. Introduction. This is an action for personal injury and loss of consortium brought by Lindsay M. Clancy, Lindsay or plaintiff. This action arises from the catastrophic failure of multiple medical providers to properly diagnose, treat, and monitor Lindsay's severe postpartum psychiatric condition, despite her repeated desperate pleas for help and her family's persistent efforts to obtain adequate care. So keep in mind, and this is, me out here swirling, that that this is going to talk about who filed the lawsuit, who and what they're suing over, the main allegations, what they're going to ask the court for, and so those are going to be the key things that we're going to talk about today. Okay, so that's what these are allegations, and a lot of this is stuff we have heard and seen in the trial, but this is giving us a view on the civil side of this, which is it overlaps. It's going to overlap because we have heard some of these people testify. So I find that quite interesting that we do know a little bit about this already before reading into this. So I just want to say that. Let me jump over chat, see what's going on. Oh, look, Queen's here. Good afternoon, Queen. And we can thank As the Gavel Drops for providing documents. And if y'all scroll back up, here you go, Nightbot, As the Gavel Drops for all your true crime and obsessions, including chat, up-to-date case details, court documents, exhibits, and even watch party events. There's your Discord, AGD, ATGD. Court recess until Monday. I'm glad you told me that because I have it muted over here. So, all right, I'll close that tab out then. We're done with Lindsay for the day. So that's probably 10 hours in. And yeah. Wow. Okay. All right. So let's jump back over here. Okay. So Lindsay Clancy did everything a mother in her situation could do. She recognized something was wrong with her. She sought medical treatment. She went to emergency rooms. She called crisis hotlines. She admitted herself to hospitals. She took the medications prescribed to her. She communicated her worsening symptoms to her providers. She told them the medications were making her worse. Her husband advocated for her. Her family drove from out of state to help care for her children, and still the medical system failed her completely. So I want to make note here that we're going to hear things from Lindsay. I am assuming I have not read completely through these. So we didn't get to hear from Lindsay in the trial. So maybe this will give us a little more of hearing Lindsay's opinion. Like I said, I haven't read it. We do this on the fly. So no problem, girlfriend. No problem. You'll be here for 25 minutes. Okay, y'all, somebody start a timer. Teresa has 25 minutes. Thanks for being here, Teresa. Okay, back to reading. The defendants, Jennifer A. Tufts, MD, which would be Dr. Tufts, Dr. Goodhart, Dr. Diaz, Nurse Jollotta, Aster Mental Health, which will be listed as Aster, South Shore Health System, which is going to be South Shore, McLean Hospital, listed as McLean, and Women and Infants Hospital of Rhode Island, which will be listed as Women and Infants. Each failed to properly diagnose Lindsay's bipolar disorder with postpartum onset and instead subjected her to a disorganized, uncoordinated course of polypharmacy that exacerbated her condition and precipitated to a severe psychotic break. Lindsay's clinical course was significantly complicated by a polypharmacy and the involvement of multiple prescribers, which in effect obscure an accurate diagnosis and appropriate intervention and treatment, even though Lindsay did all that she could to obtain the appropriate treatment. The psychotropic medications Lindsay received appeared to have paradoxically exacerbated her underlying psychiatric vulnerability, precipitating a state of manic psychosis characterized by compelling command hallucinations. The tragedy that followed was a direct and proximate result of the defendant's collective negligence in failing to recognize obvious warning signs, coordinate care, properly diagnose Lindsay's condition, and provide treatment that met the applicable standards of care. As a direct result of defendant's negligence, Lindsay suffered catastrophic physical injuries, including permanent paralysis, and she lost her 3 beloved children, Cora Marie Clancy, Dawson William Clancy, and Callan Patrick Clancy. Lindsay now faces a lifetime of physical disability, psychological trauma, and the unbearable grief of waking up every day knowing she killed her children, all of which have been prevented had defendants provided competent medical care. What y'all think of? Now we have a whole nother civil lawsuit that is for Patrick and what Patrick is seeking in a civil lawsuit, which we will be going over that one separately. I'm not sure what day, but keep those notifications. Lola, stop digging. I'm not sure what day we're going to go over it, but we will go over those. Yes, ma'am. Stop digging. And it's quite interesting because I did see financially what he's asking, and I'm just going to leave it there until we get ready to discuss his. But let's go back here. Parties. Plaintiff Lindsay M. Clancy is a resident of Massachusetts who at all relevant times resided in Duxbury, Massachusetts with her husband, Patrick Clancy, and their 3 children. Lindsay was a registered nurse who worked in the labor and delivery department at Massachusetts General Hospital. She is the mother of Cora Marie Clancy, Dawson William Clancy, and Callan Patrick Clancy. This is going over the parties that is listed in the suit. Defendant Jennifer A. Tufts, MD, is a psychiatrist registered to practice medicine in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts with the usual place of business in Braintree, Norfolk County, Massachusetts. Number 3, Defendant Alia Goodhart, MD, a psychiatrist registered to practice medicine in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts with a usual place of business at McLean Hospital. With the address, Dr. Goodhart was the attending psychiatrist who authored and signed Lindsay's physician discharge summary on January 5th, 2023, following the 5-day inpatient admission. So remember, she was in there for 5 days, and she had that birthday party coming up that following weekend, and she wanted to go home. And again, I talk about masking. We decide that we feel better. We've gotten that sleep. We may not be 100% better, but there is a little bit of betterness to us where we want to go home and do things when you're in a situation like that. So I can relate of her wanting to go home. And the 5-day admission was when the last admission, the one she went in on New Year's Eve, was not actually admitted until New Year's Day, and then she spent the 5 days. So, okay, then we're going to go on to Defendant Zobita Diaz, MD, is psychiatrist registered to practice medicine in the state of Rhode Island with a usual place of business at Women Infants Hospital. Dr. Diaz was the attending psychiatrist who evaluated Lindsay at the Women and Infants Day Hospital program on December 20th, 2022. Then we have number 5, Defendant Rebecca Jollotta, CNP, certified nurse practitioner, registered to practice medicine in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts with the usual place of business in Weymouth, Norfolk County, Massachusetts. Number 6 is Defendant Aster Mental Health, Inc., is a Massachusetts professional corporation with a principal place of business at 325. Okay, we don't need all that. Aster employed Dr. Tufts and is vicariously liable for her negligent acts and omissions, which is important. That's how the Aster Mental Health got lumped in with this, because Tufts worked for them. So, number 7, Defendant South Shore Health System is a Massachusetts nonprofit corporation with a principal place of business at South Shore employed Nurse Jollotta and operated the perinatal behavioral health program through which Lindsay received treatment. South Shore is vicariously liable for the negligent acts and omission of its employees. Number 8, defendant McLean Hospital, psychiatric hospital located at Belmont, Massachusetts. McLean provided inpatient psychiatric treatment to Lindsay from January 1st through 5th, 2023. McLean employed Dr. Goodhart and is vicariously liable for her negligent acts and omission. Number 9, defendant Women's and Infant Hospital of Rhode Island is a hospital located in Providence, Rhode Island. Women infants operated as a partial hospitalization day program for patients with postpartum depression, where Lindsay sought treatment in late December 2022. Women and infants employed Dr. Diaz and vicariously liable for her negligent acts and omissions. Okay, so let's jump over here, see if anybody's chatting. Oh, look, Sun's dropped some treats, and a silver star. Thank you, Sun. I appreciate you. Yeah, Lola keeps she was over here wanting to come up and say hi, but my new chair has arms on it, has armrests, and she can't jump up here like she did before. Yeah, she was over there digging in the something she shouldn't have been in. Y'all know how that is. Let me sip my drink. Okay, this is jurisdiction. Court has jurisdiction over the Massachusetts defendants under GLC 223A 2 and 3 because they either reside in Massachusetts or have a principal place of business in Massachusetts, and or their actions and inactions that caused injuries at issue took place in Massachusetts. So then this goes through talking about the court's jurisdiction, which is fine. We don't need to read all that. Facts. Here we go. Facts. This is where we want to get. All right. One more sip of my broth before we start talking. Okay. Lindsay Clancy and her family. Number 13. Lindsay Marie Clancy, born August 11, 1990, was raised in Wallingford, Connecticut. Her formative years were characterized by consistent academic excellence, culminating in a distinguished record throughout college and rigorous accelerated nursing programs at Massachusetts General Hospital. 14. Lindsay's 9-year tenure as a labor and delivery nurse at Massachusetts General Hospital demonstrated notable professional, competent, and personal fulfillment. She was passionate about nursing and dedicated to her patients. Lindsay married Patrick Clancy on December 2016, and they established their family home in Duxbury, Massachusetts. Lindsay and Patrick had 3 children: Cora Marie Clancy, born December 24, 2017, Dawson William Clancy, born September 30th, 2019, and Callan Patrick Clancy, born May 26, 2022. As described by Patrick Clancy, before Lindsay became ill, she was dedicated to being a mom, even over-dedicated, worked twice as hard as most. She rarely took a break to rest. Lindsay, quote, loved our children, end quote, and, quote, never took her frustrations out on the kids. She remained as affectionate with the kids as always. Okay, Patrick. 18. I'm leaving my personal thoughts out of this. 18. Lindsay's mother-in-law, Susan Clancy, testified in grand jury proceedings that she, quote, loved everything about Lindsay. She was a fun, loving, doting wife and mother. She loved her kids and was a nurturing mother who smiled all the time. 19. Lindsay's sister, Allison Olga, described Lindsay as a kind of person who cares deeply for the people she loves. She shows up for the celebration and writes handwritten notes to show her love and appreciation. She is also there in times of needs and finds just the right words to provide comfort and support. 20. Lindsay consistently conveyed profound affection for her children and husband. She had never previously engaged in any form of physical harm towards her children. Take a pregnant pause there and see what y'all are saying over here before we get into her prior postpartum history. She needs her own chair. Well, she has a whole couch. I have to say, she has a whole couch. So this is sad. This is sad. And hearing it this way, reading it, and absorbing it is very different than it's different in a way for me to absorb it than hearing these people talk about it, because now I'm able to put what they said at trial to something that was already filed back in January of this year. And here we are in August and they're talking about it in a trial. Yeah, they had a nice life. It seems that way. Audibly listening to me read out loud, it seems they had a nice life. Okay. B, Lindsay's prior postpartum history. During Lindsay's first pregnancy with Cora, she experienced anxiety due to an abnormal ultrasound finding that later resolved. Oh, okay. I didn't know about that. Okay. During Lindsay's first pregnancy with Cora, she experienced anxiety due to an abnormal ultrasound finding that later resolved. I knew she had anxiety, but I didn't know why. She experienced some anxiety during the postpartum period, but returned to part-time work and breastfed for 1 year without incident. During the postpartum period following her second child, Dawson's birth, Lindsay was initially elated with increased energy. Patrick described that she had manic she had manic behavior for multiple days. Huh. On October 2020, she had an episode of decluttering to quote simplify her life, end quote, obsessively cleaning and discarding items. She said she felt, quote, amazingly on top of things, end quote. Her thoughts raced. She consistently felt pressure to be active. After her second pregnancy, anxiety emerged at approximately 2 months postpartum. Although Lindsay was offered Zoloft by a psychiatrist, she declined due to concerns about breastfeeding. Her symptoms resolved through exercise, healthy diet, meditation, and several therapy sessions. These prior postpartum episodes included the hypomanic symptoms following Dawson's birth, were critical indicators that should have alerted competent psychiatric providers to the risk of bipolar disorder and the potential for more severe postpartum psychiatric complications following subsequent pregnancies. So we knew that they had wanted a large family. I remember them talking about, yeah. Hmm, good question, Muffins. Good question. Why would he say that, but also say my wife is not bipolar? Hmm. Wow. Okay. See, third pregnancy. So see, and they already knew that this was going on. So, in my opinion, if she's already dealt with this, there should have been doctor's notes, something to go along with these pregnancies, after care that would be used to um, circumvent it before anything happened again. If you know you've already had these postpartum episodes with other pregnancies, then it should have been looked into more. I'm really thinking out loud here, guys. I'm sorry. Let me look over here at the chat. I'm over here thinking out loud. Yeah, we went over that at the very beginning of the stream, Teresa. Yeah, he is wiped from the website of all that. So, well, I had one. That was enough. I have a couple stepkids. One of my own. That was enough. She makes me psycho anyway. So, on a good day, could be as narcissist. You're right. Glad to see you, Cindy. Glad you made it. Hope you're having a good day. You've been on my mind, girl. Anyways. Yeah. Yep. There you go. Teresa's on it. Teresa's on it. She's just gonna raw dog that postpartum. She been through it twice. And it's okay. Could be. Could be. Hmm. Has this gone further than a complaint? This is a civil lawsuit. It's not just a complaint. They are demanding a jury trial. I believe. Let me go back over here and see. I need to double check that before I say something. Uh, I can't find it right there. I'll find it in a little bit though, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be a civil. It's a demand for trial. It's okay. Yeah, Teresa, don't be sorry. You ask her questions, love. Ask her questions. We're here to talk. We're here to talk. You're welcome. Okay. Okay, go back to reading. Okay, so now we're at the third pregnancy and initial postpartum period. Number 25. Lindsay gave birth to Callan on May 26, 2022. Both Patrick and Lindsay took parental leave following Callan's birth. So with that thought, that means Patrick was home with them. Wonder how long his leave was for. Lindsay demonstrated significant activation and hypomanic behavior, including an extensive program of exercising beginning only 1 week after delivery. She woke every day before the children at 4 a.m., ran 3 miles, did spinning for 30 minutes on the Peloton, and then 30 minutes of aerobics. On July 4, 2022, only 5 weeks after delivery, she ran a 5-mile race. Oh, if that's not hypomanic behavior, I don't know what else is, y'all. Whew. Number 27, Lindsay's sister Allison observed that unlike her usual sensible self, Lindsay impulsively bought into a quote beach body quote multi-level marketing scheme, purchasing products to resell. She made video of her exercise routine, posted them on Facebook, and encourages friends to join the program. So that's that MLM she got stuck in. And it really, I think it messed with her. And honestly, my opinion, she may have been doing all that workout and all that for that beach body that she bought into to help market all this stuff. You know, you got to look good for the part. You can't just sit up here, slap a little bit of makeup on your face and hit that live button and start talking, you know. It's fixing to storm, babe. You hear me? Okay. Uh, okay. Sorry, I hear thunder and the wind blowing. So that is my cue to tell y'all, hey, you know what? Hold up. Let's make me big. Hey, welcome to Rubber Ramada Reviews, where we do reviews. We talk about trials. We talk about everything. Mental health. We do documents. We do what else do we do here, guys? Y'all, I'm squirrely. It's Friday and we're fixing to go back to night shift, so I'm all over the place mentally. He's fixing to leave and make his run to the store. And with the storms, y'all know my electricity goes out sometimes. The internet goes out when I get stormed. So this is my warning to all. If it goes out, I will see y'all tomorrow if my electricity goes out because I'm not going to come back today because we got football game tonight. So, okay, let's just do it. Just do it.
Hmm. Hmm.
Oh, y'all. Oh, now I hit another wrong button. I don't even know what it did. I just turned my whole screen a whole nother color. I don't even know. It's back here, Sheila. There's your button. There's your button. I be pushing buttons, y'all. I'm pushing buttons. I'm pushing buttons. I'm sorry. I'm pushing buttons. Okay, back to reading. Okay. Number 28. These early postpartum behaviors constitute to a hypomanic episode that, combined with her history following Dawson's birth, should have immediately suggested bipolar disorder to any competent psychiatric provider who obtained an adequate history. D. Lindsay's desperate efforts to seek help. Number 29. At approximately 12 weeks postpartum, Lindsay's mood switched suddenly to anxiety and depression. She's cycling. In my opinion, she's cycling. She experienced debilitating anxiety, insomnia, sleeping only approximately 3 hours per night, and exhaustion during the days. She had no motivation and could not exercise. Everything about her body felt heavy and required effort. It was a chore to dress or shower. Her parents came from out of state to help care for the children. Recognizing that something was seriously wrong, Lindsay took the initiative to seek psychiatric care. On September 12th, 2022, she found Dr. Jennifer Tufts online and scheduled an appointment, which we have looked at Jennifer's website and that she specialized in postpartum. So, 31. After her first appointment with Dr. Tufts, Lindsay's Edinburgh Postnatal Depression Scale (EPDS) score was 23, indicating severe depression. Dr. Tufts prescribed Zoloft despite Lindsay's hesitation about the medication due to breastfeeding concerns. Lindsay waited approximately 2 weeks before taking the medication, still concerned about its effects on breastfeeding, but ultimately began taking Zoloft in mid-October 2022 because she knew she needed help. She knew she needed help. Okay. 33. After increasing the Zoloft dose from 25 milligrams to 50 as prescribed, Lindsay experienced a severe adverse reaction. She did not sleep for 48 hours, had racing thoughts, worsening anxiety, and felt awful. Quote, awful. This dramatic departure from her previous sleep pattern was an obviously warning sign of medication induced activation consistent with bipolar disorder. 34. Lindsay promptly reported these symptoms to Dr. Tufts on October 20th, 2022, rather than recognizing the significance of this reaction and conducting appropriate testing to determine why Lindsay had such an adverse response to a relatively low dose of medication. Dr. Tufts simply discontinued the Zoloft and prescribed Ativan and Benadryl for sleep. I need one of those things that go wah wah because mm-mm. Boo. Okay. 35. Even after the careful tapering these medications, Lindsay's profound insomnia persisted, accompanied by distressing cardiac palpitations. Her condition continued to deteriorate. Number 36. On November 16, 2022, Lindsay's insomnia hit severe. She took herself to the emergency room at South Shore Hospital seeking help. She reported insomnia, anxiety, and palpitations. The ER doctor prescribed Trazodone for sleep, but it was not effective. 37. Patrick's mother, a nurse at South Shore Hospital, contacted South Shore Perinatal Behavioral Health Program on November 20th, 2022, seeking additional help for Lindsay. Nurse practitioner Julie Paul reached out to Lindsay. 38. Lindsay reported to Nurse Paul that she was, quote, very frustrated and scared, end quote, experiencing, quote, extreme insomnia, end quote, averaging only 3 hours per night and having racing thoughts. Nurse Paul prescribed Prozac on November 21st, 2022. This is where we're getting a list of all these meds are coming from again. Number 39. After merely 4 days on Prozac, Lindsay reported that the medication intensified her insomnia. She immediately informed her providers that the Prozac was discontinued. This was the second antidepressant that had caused activation and worsening insomnia, a critical red flag for bipolar disorder that providers failed to recognize. 40. On November 25th, 2022, Nurse Paul prescribed 3 different medications: Ambien, Remeron, and Klonopin. On November 26, 2022, after taking Remeron, Lindsay experienced disassociation, perceiving the world around her as unreal, distorted, and distant. She was unable to determine what was real. She became disoriented, forgetful, confused, and disconnected from her own body. She was unable to drive and unable to be alone. Let me read that one more time. She became disoriented, forgetful, confused, and disconnected from her own body. She was unable to drive and unable to. Number 41. Lindsay reported these alarming symptoms to her providers on November 28, 2022, noting she was still struggling, sleeping only 3 to 4 hours, and feeling disoriented and forgetful. 42. On November 29, 2022, Lindsay began treating with Nurse Jollotta. Lindsay reported that she was, quote, anxious and frightened about what is happening, end quote, and that she blamed herself. Correctly considered a bipolar presentation and prescribed Seroquel, an antipsychotic and mood stabilizer, which I've been saying that all along. They kept talking about Seroquel. I'm like, it's not just, it's a mood stabilizer. And that's what they were not using in let me just come over here to the chat for a minute. This is one of the words they were not using that I was bothered by, is that Seroquel is a mood stabilizer. And to not hear them present in trial, listening to them talk, they never called it a mood stabilizer that I could recall, because I was waiting for that. I was waiting for that. I'm on Seroquel. I'm not afraid to say that. It's part of my medication regime. I have to have my regimen of medicines, and that is in my it's in my little pocket, and it works well for me at the dose that I have. And it's something that has to be, you you have to find the right dose for you. So again, you have to find the right dose. And it is very hard to be going from doctor to doctor, and this one doing this and that one giving this, and it's hard. It's emotionally on a person. It is hard. Oh, Teresa's out. Teresa's time was up, y'all. I hope y'all kept the clock on her. Be safe, Teresa. Good luck at the doctor. Absolutely safe. Southern. Why didn't it click on that? Click on that. It won't let me click. There it goes. Health services failed her. Or failed. Yeah, I know what you're trying to say. I agree, Robin. I agree. Look, Southern agrees. Cindy agrees. Look, Cindy, you missed. I had a whole skirmish of, I tried to type before we even went live, and I don't know where my fingers were on the keyboard, but nothing was coming out right. So you're getting good at it too, huh, Robin? Okay, another sip of my drink. We're almost halfway through it. Okay. Okay, so that's where Nurse Jollotta correctly considered a bipolar presentation, prescribed the Seroquel, an antipsychotic and mood stabilizer. 43. After starting Seroquel, Lindsay's condition took a dramatic turn for the worse. Again, like I've told y'all, sidebar here, not all medications work the same for everybody. As a whole, they put these out there after these tested guinea pigs, but we don't all react the same. So the fact that her condition took a dramatic turn for the worse, we don't all deal the same with medications. I've said that over and over. So I this doesn't surprise me. She developed suicidal ideations and began experience what she described as quote intrusive thoughts end quote, which were actually auditory hallucinations. The voice said, quote, "I will not be the same. I want to die," end quote. Lindsay openly communicated her escalating internal turmoil to her husband, her parents, and her providers. She described her emotional state as, quote, emotionless and like a zombie, attributing to its profound effective blunting to the Seroquel. 45. On December 2nd, 2022, Lindsay reported to Nurse Jollotta that she had lost 15 pounds, had no appetite, was experienced panic attacks and confusion, and had a lack of attention over the past 4 days. I have to say, at least she recognized it and was able to speak on it. A lot of times we don't recognize things that are happening when we are in the moment. So kudos to that. 46. On December 4th, 2022, Lindsay was so frightened by the hallucinations that she called the New Bedford Suicide Hotline seeking help. She was told there was no emergency because she had no specific plan as to how she would kill herself. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Hello? Keep in mind, we are not giving legal or medical advice. This is for discussion purpose only, and we are sitting here reviewing and reading documents. Possum in the house. Hey, Possum. Hey, Possum. That's right. Everybody, remember, hit that thumbs up. Thank you so much. Cindy said, Seroquel, 25 milligrams for me with my other meds. 50 was way too much. See? Adult son takes 300 with his, yeah, see, exactly. Yep. Yep. So she was told there was no emergency because she said she had no specific plans as how she would kill herself. So again, don't call a suicide hotline unless you have a plan. Is that what we're saying here? I'm sorry. What? This is stupid. Sorry. Squirreling in it. Go back to reading, Sheila. Number 47. On December 5th, 2022, Lindsay met virtually with the Aspire Crisis Support Clinic clinician, again seeking help. She was told she did not meet criteria for inpatient treatment because she did not have a suicide plan. Y'all, I am really not, oh, oh. Didn't have a plan, so she couldn't get inpatient treatment. Okay. On December 6, 2022, Patrick attended an appointment with Lindsay and Nurse Jollotta. Patrick connected Lindsay's suicidal thoughts to the Seroquel. He told Nurse Jollotta that, quote, Lindsay is 10,000 times worse since she has taken medication, end quote, and asked if they could, quote, get Lindsay off medications and start from scratch to see what's going on, end quote. He asked if there could have been some mistake, like using the wrong medications. Nurse Jollotta acknowledges, quote, it is possible, end quote. Despite this, Nurse Jollotta continued to increase their Seroquel dosage towards 4 100 milligrams per day. Oh. Okay, Jollotta, we see you. On December 13th, 2022, Lindsay remained deeply depressed, had no motivation, and still had suicidal ideation. She wanted, quote, this to all be over, end quote. Number 50. On December 15th, 2022, Patrick called Nurse Jollotta's office to report that, quote, Lindsay had a devastating week, end quote, and that it, quote, was the worst day for Lindsay. She had horrible thoughts all day, end quote. So Patrick called Nurse Jollotta to tell her that Lindsay had a horrible week and horrible thoughts all day. Lindsay had auditory hallucinations all day, every day. She felt debilitated, not interested in anything, exhausted, and could not get out of bed. The hallucinations were loud and continued all day, saying, quote, I will never be the same, end quote. Quote, I will never be me again, end quote. And quote, you are damaged, you will never be the same. The only option is to die, end quote. Number 51. Lindsay told her husband Patrick, quote, I have thoughts of harming the kids, end quote. She also told her mother about these thoughts. Because she was in a psychotic state, Lindsay also had paranoid delusions that people could hear her thoughts and that she would be locked in a hospital and have her children taken away. 52. Lindsay's escalating suicidal thoughts prompted a visit to the Massachusetts General Hospital emergency room on December 20th, 2022, where she sought help. The ER suggested either admission to McLean Hospital or partial hospitalization day program at Women and Infants Hospital in Rhode Island. So that was December 20th, and keep in mind it wasn't until New Year's Day that she was actually admitted. So we're going to get there. Jump over here and see what y'all are saying. I agree, Cindy. They were looking at her. Nobody believed her. Nobody took her seriously. That's how I feel about it. It's just my opinion, how I feel about it. E, Women and Infants Hospital and Dr. Diaz's failure to properly treat Lindsay. 53. On December 20th, 2022, Lindsay admitted herself into partial hospitalization day program at Women Infant Hospital in Providence, Rhode Island, a program intended for patients with postpartum depression. This was yet another active step Lindsay took to seek help for her worsening conditions. Again, as we've stated continuously, she was screaming, obviously. 54. Lindsay's chief complaint at Women and Infants was, I feel numb and crazy depressed. That's in quotes. She reported feeling, quote, crazy depressed, numb to all emotions. I can't feel love, end quote. That her, quote, life is becoming a disaster, end quote. That she couldn't, quote, feel fear, end quote. And that she was, quote, messed up beyond repair, end quote. She had lost 15 pounds in a month, had no motivation, reported that, quote, it takes all the effort in the world to just breathe. It takes all the effort in the world to just breathe. 55. Lindsay's Edinburgh Postnatal Depression Scale, EPDS score, was at Women and Infants, was 23, indicating severe depression. Her Generalized Anxiety Disorder, GAD-7, score was 21, higher than a threshold for most severe category. Sorry, I need to put this thing on silence because I can't have that distracting me. I have three people. Muffins, Hio, and Hector are the only three that can get through when I put it on Do Not Disturb. So should anything happen or the stream go out because I lose my internet, Muffins, I know you're listening. You gotta let me know because I back and forth looking between screens, and Hector's not here, and Hio is doing Hio things. So, okay. 56. Despite the severe elevated scores, Dr. Diaz, the attending psychiatrist at Women and Infants, concluded that Lindsay had no postpartum depression and rejected a bipolar disorder diagnosis because of, quote, no history of hypomania or psychosis or family history, end quote. Oh, this conclusion was negligent because Dr. Diaz failed to obtain an adequate history. Dr. Diaz's own notes documented that Lindsay's sister had experienced postpartum anxiety, a relevant family psychiatric history that should have been explored. Had Dr. Diaz properly inquired about Lindsay's early postpartum period, she would have learned of the hypomanic episodes that began immediately after delivery. Dr. Diaz also failed to recognize that Lindsay's providers had previously considered bipolar disorder, as documented in Lindsay's records, stating she was started on, quote, Seroquel and concerns for bipolar. 57. Dr. Diaz accepted Lindsay and Patrick's belief that her symptoms were due to over-medication and recommended weaning Seroquel. The clinical team at Women and Infants posited that Lindsay's symptoms were, quote, more pharmacologically induced than purely depressive, end quote. Dr. Diaz's assessment slash plan documented that the WIH DHP is not a suitable treatment facility for Lindsay. Yet Dr. Diaz failed to recommend or arrange appropriate alternative treatment. Instead, discharged Lindsay after one day of treatment with inadequate follow-up care. Women and Infants Hospital determined that its day program was not appropriate for Lindsay and reached out to Nurse Jollotta to discuss Lindsay's care. Nurse Jollotta did not respond to them, which, as we know, I'll go back over here to chat to listen. Let's see what y'all got to say. Yeah, as we know, from trial discussion, listening to the trial, that they reached out to Nurse Jollotta and she never answered the phone calls. She never came back and said, "Hello, what's up? Hello, hello. Let's talk about this because obviously there's a problem." You think so? Civil case for me, I believe, will be harder and more intense than a criminal trial. I really do. I wonder if they're going to live stream it. It will be interesting. And the other thing that's going to be interesting with all this is the verdict outcome. They're going to have to find if they take all this to trial, they're going to have to find jurors that can completely blank out anything, know nothing about the criminal trial, no matter the outcome, no matter her outcome, whatever her outcome may be at that criminal trial that is going on right now, where we have juries deliberating for her. They cannot know anything or use any of that for this trial. But these people have already testified and we've heard what they had to say. So now what are they going to come back and say? God, I have questions. I have questions. Hey, K Swan. I'm reading. I'm reading a lot. You have so many thoughts and opinions. Yeah, I know. I agree. I agree. My heart breaks for her. And I was listening to somebody earlier and total disgusting person out here. I even made a post on X about it. I was so disturbed. They were like, "Well, I want to talk about it." And as soon as I started talking about it in his chat, this person's chat, they blocked me. And I'm like, "Well, how are you going to openly talk about this if you have your one certain thought and you're not going to let others have their opinions?" That's not a way to talk about things. I was really, really upset about that. Okay, back to reading. Okay, so Nurse Jollotta didn't respond. Dr. Diaz and women and infants' negligent failure to properly evaluate Lindsay, obtain adequate psychiatric history, and recognize the signs of bipolar disorder with postpartum onset resulted in a missed opportunity to provide appropriate treatment. Their recommendation to wean Seroquel without providing a proper alternative treatment plan or ensuring adequate follow-up care contributed to Lindsay's further deterioration. I absolutely agree with that. F. McLean Hospital and Dr. Goodhart's failure to properly treat Lindsay. 60. Following the Seroquel reduction recommendation by women's and infants, Lindsay's suicidal ideations resurged. By December 29, 2022, Lindsay told her husband, quote, "I can't tough it out anymore. I need to go to McLean," end quote. On December 30th, 2022, Lindsay went to MGH emergency room, which suggested admission to McLean Hospital. On December 31st, 2022, Lindsay admitted herself to McLean Hospital, the nation's top-ranking psychiatric hospital, due to her severe depression and suicidal ideation. Lindsay's admitting symptoms included passive suicidal ideation, feeling detached, hopelessness, depression, no appetite or energy to perform activities of daily living, no motivation, anhedonia, racing thoughts, inability to organize her thoughts, memory problems, anxiety, and insomnia. Her insight and judgment were documented as, quote, limited. McLean placed Lindsay on a locked unit with 15-minute suicide checks. However, the care she received was grossly inadequate. She was admitted on New Year's Eve, and there was a, quote, skeleton crew because of the holiday. We talked about that a lot with the trial and everything. The fact that, you know, they didn't have enough people working there. And that's where the TikTok lady came in. If y'all remember, that's where the TikTok lady came in and wanted to talk about her knowledge of the, quote, skeleton crew. So I do think that some of it may be settled outside of court, but I think one of the I'm gonna have to look because I haven't looked at all the documents, y'all. I pull them in, I read them as we go. So, but I am very interested to see how many will settle out of court just to avoid all this. Uh, Good question. I think we'll get to it at the end of this. I think there is monies asked, and I'm not sure how that will be handled depending on the outcome of the criminal trial we're sitting at right now. Oh, oh, that was thunder. Okay, let's keep reading before we lose electricity. Okay, McLean placed Lindsay in a locked unit with 15. Okay, we read up that. Okay. Skeleton crew because of holiday. Patients spend their evenings doing puzzle. It's okay, guys. It's okay. Meat's over here freaking out now. Meat doesn't like storms. You're okay, buddy. You're okay. You're okay. He's scared. My poor baby. Okay. Sorry. Patients spend their evening doing puzzles and coloring. Nurses stay behind at desks and glass. Lindsay did not see a doctor until January 3rd, 3 days after admission. Think about that. She didn't see a doctor till January 3rd, and they released her on January 5th, 2 days later. Okay. All right. All right. I'm just speaking out loud here. You're okay, buddy. Calm down. On January 3rd, 2023, the doctor advised Lindsay to stop Seroquel and the benzodiazepine and prescribed trazodone for sleep. On January 4th, 2023, Lindsay asked if she could go home for Cora's birthday. Because her thoughts had improved since the Seroquel decrease, she was approved for discharge. Lindsay was discharged from McLean Hospital on January 5th, 2023, after only a 5-day stay. Dr. Goodhart authored and signed the physician discharge summary, approving Lindsay's release despite her documented, quote, limited, end quote, insight, judgment, and suicidal ideations. Lindsay was returned to the care of the same outpatient providers who had been providing alleged substandard care. 66. After discharge, Dr. Goodhart from McLean called Lindsay and spoke for only 10 minutes, offering names of antidepressants. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That's not funny. Oh my God. Sorry, that's not funny. It was a flash of many years ago, many years ago, a doctor calling and me on the phone with them and them just giving me a list of what would you like to take? Seriously, I'm not even lying here, y'all. Seriously, seriously, put me up top. Seriously, I am flashing and I didn't mean to laugh, but it just really caught me off, okay? Because I can tell you, yes, a nervous laughter. Oh, I was on the phone with a doctor one time. This was years and years ago. They start listing off all these medications. Well, these are new on the market. This is on the market. Have you considered this? Um, I'm new at this mental illness shit. Why are you asking me what do I want to try? You're the doctor. I'm telling you my problems, and you're going to tell me what do I want to try? I you know? It was very discerning, you know? Yeah, I'm grounded for laughing. I'm grounded for laughing. Um, thank you for that, Hannah. What's Muffin say up here? Oh, I know. It is started raining there. Oh, you heard the thunder? You heard it? Oh, yeah, me just standing. He's right here. Look. You can't even see him. He's right here. Look up here, buddy. He's like, nope. He's like, no, mom, no, mom, no, mom. I don't even want to be here. I want to go back. Let's all go climb back in the bed where we were all in the bed earlier. He's like, let's go back to the bed. Okay, take me back down from being big. Okay, let's go back over here. Read through this before these storms cause my dogs too much anxiety before I can give him his anxiety medicine. No pun intended. Oh, okay. After discharge, called Lindsay, spoke for only 10 minutes, offering names of antidepressants. The staff at McLean suggested amitriptyline, yet another antidepressant, the very class of medications that had repeatedly caused Lindsay to have adverse reactions. When Lindsay was discharged from McLean, she thought, quote, I was just in the best hospital in the country, so there was not much hope. Wait. When Lindsay was discharged from McLean, she thought, quote, I was just in the best hospital in the country, so there was not much hope, end quote. She decided she must appear like she was okay and, quote, had to do her best. 68. Dr. Goodhart and McLean's hospital negligent failure to properly evaluate Lindsay, obtain an adequate psychiatric history, provide sufficient inpatient care during her brief admission, and assuring appropriate discharge planning and follow-up care directly contributed to the tragic events that followed Dr. Goodhart. As the discharging physician, approved Lindsay's release after only 5 days despite her documented, quote, limited insight and judgment and her ongoing severe symptoms. G. Continued deterioration under Dr. Tufts' care. Lindsay returned to treatment with Dr. Tufts on January 6, 2023, the day after her discharge from McLean. Dr. Tufts diagnosed Lindsay with, quote, chronic major depressive disorder, single episode, moderate, end quote. She recorded that Lindsay's psychiatric condition was, quote, deteriorating, end quote, and that her medication was not effective. Despite her poor conditions, Dr. Tufts met with Lindsay for only 17 minutes. At Cora's birthday party on January 7, 2023, Lindsay was not herself. She smiled but was not converse. She avoided talking and could not make sense of what others were saying. Lindsay's hallucinations resumed within 1 week of her discharge from McLean. On January 10, 2023, Lindsay returned to Dr. Tufts and was switched to Valium for a benzodiazepine taper. Dr. Tufts indicated that at some point we will add an antidepressant, in quotes. Y'all, this is not, I am getting angry. Oh. On January 16, 2023, Lindsay was still experiencing debilitating depression. She had to force herself to do anything The hallucinations continued. Quote, you should harm the children. Quote, you should kill yourself. Quote, you will never be the same. The only option is to die. She felt like a, quote, zombie. Dr. Tufts prescribed amitriptyline, another antidepressant, at 10 milligrams per day. January 20th, 2023, because Lindsay was having such awful thoughts and was so numb and emotionless, she researched, quote, what is a psychopath, end quote, to see if she was one and whether there was a cure. That contributes to all those Google things that they talked about at trial. On January 23rd, 2023, during another 17-minute appointment, Lindsay reported being a little more anxious with heart racing and, quote, more AM anxiety, end quote. Dr. Tufts reported that Lindsay's, quote, mood is the same, flat/anxious, and that she had, quote, no motivation, numb, and has to force herself up out of the house, end quote. Her sleep and medication efficacy were, quote, poor. Her insight was, quote, poor, and her psychiatric condition generally was, quote, unchanged. Dr. Tufts increased the amitriptyline to 20 milligrams per day. That night, Lindsay did not sleep. Let's switch over here and see what y'all are saying for a minute. Wrong button, Sheila. What are we reading? Well, we are reading the civil lawsuit that Lindsay has against the doctors and the medical facilities that neglected her care. So that's the best I could tell you. Back to work. Hannah went back to work. I'm scrolling back through chat. See what Meek, come here. Oh, he's right here. He is laying right here. He is not moving. You'll take. Oh God. And he says, I imagine her nervous system was likely on hyper mode to any type of stimulation, even though she had no clue how to respond. Yeah. I mean, can you imagine the swirling of all these medications and these doctors? And you go somewhere and they say, oh, no, you don't have a plan. We can't help you. So what? You need to write it out before you come. Don't call 911 or 988 or anything. I'm just, I'm so thinking out loud, and it's so frustrating knowing that she was screaming for help. I mean, and nobody, these doctors, that's the problem. These doctors. And again, my little nervous giggle a few minutes ago that evidently on the internet, we're not allowed to have nervous giggles. But knowing what I had been through with a medication conversation, just kind of, okay. January 24th, 2023. Take a big sip of. January 24th, 2023, Lindsay woke severely depressed with suicidal thoughts. She gave the children breakfast. She took Cora to the pediatrician because Cora complained of a stomach ache. Later, she went in the backyard with the children, built a snowman, and sent a picture to Patrick and her mother, which we have seen that picture. Thunder. The suicidal hallucinations continued all day nonstop. Later that afternoon, the voices began saying, you should harm the children. That's in quotes. You should harm the children. Lindsay thought about dinner and realized she had not prepared anything. She asked Patrick about takeout. She looked at a map to see how long it would take because she didn't want to be alone and needed help. As soon as Patrick left to pick up the food, there was a loud, demanding, repetitious voice. Quote, this is your last chance. Kill the children so you can kill yourself. This is your last chance. You have to kill the kids so you can kill yourself. End quote. Lindsay felt a force come over her. Lindsay experienced, you're okay, buddy, calm down. Lindsay experiences command auditory hallucinations. A demanding, powerful male voice explicitly ordered her. She felt an overwhelming, irresistible compulsion to comply, entering a dissociative, sorry, that's not the word they use, dissociative, quote, dreamlike state where her physical actions felt utterly disconnected from her conscious volition. She perceived her, quote, body was just acting, end quote, and she was, quote, merely watching herself do it. She reported she, quote, had no choice but to follow these compelling directives. Lindsay described, I lost all control. My body started acting without any control on my part. I was just following commands, all action. The voice demanded action, end quote. Lindsay proceeded to strangle each of her children, uttering, go to God, baby. And that's in quotes, go to God, baby. I will pause here to go to the chat. Yeah, if you need help, there is help available. Right. You are right, case one. It's okay, buddy. He's over here having total anxiety over this storm. Whew. And just as a pause thought, I'm not gonna go there. Let me just continue reading. Okay. Following these acts, she undertook a severe suicide attempt, ingesting a substantial quantity of various medications, self-inflicting lacerations to her wrists and neck, and jumping from a second floor window approximately 20 feet to the ground below. Lindsay suffered catastrophic injuries, including a thoracic spinal cord injury resulting in permanent paralysis below the sternum. She also suffered multiple closed fractures of her cervical and thoracic vertebrae, and multiple rib fractures. Cora and Dawson died on January 24, 2023. Callan succumbed to his injuries and died on January 27, 2023. Lindsay consistently maintained her actions were compelled by a hallucinatory voice, not a conscious decision, and expresses profound, enduring love for her children. Expert psychiatric opinions. Dr. Margaret Spinelli, clinical professor of psychiatry at Columbia University College of Physicians and Surgeons and founder of the women's program in psychiatric at Columbia University Medical College, conducted a comprehensive forensic psychiatric evaluation of Lindsay. Dr. Spinelli met with Lindsay for 5 hours at Tewksbury Psychiatric Hospital on June 11, 2024. Subsequently spoke with her by telephone for 3 hours on September 6th. Dr. Spinelli also interviewed Patrick Clancy, Lindsay's sister, Allison Olga, Lindsay's mother, Miss Musgrove, and Lindsay's mother-in-law, Susan Clancy. Dr. Spinelli diagnosed Lindsay with bipolar disorder 1, severe, with psychosis and anxious distress with postpartum onset. Dr. Spinelli concluded that Lindsay had a baseline bipolar disorder with minimal symptoms after her second childbirth, and that her symptoms worsened after her third birth when she was prescribed an antidepressant. Dr. Spinelli noted that antidepressant medication can create manic or hypomanic symptoms and mood instability in one who has bipolar illness. This is a well-known response for a person with underlying bipolar disorder. Dr. Spinelli opined that providers, quote, never seem to communicate with one another, and that no one ever asked her to describe the content of her intrusive thoughts, which were in fact hallucinations, end quote, and that Lindsay was repeatedly given antidepressants, quote, instead of a mood stabilizer. Sheila, hi. Talking about mood stabilizers again that they wouldn't ever use the word for in trial? Okay. 88. Dr. Spinelli specifically commented on the failures of multiple providers regarding the initial Zoloft reaction. She noticed that if practitioners have recognized hypomanic activation after Zoloft, a second or third antidepressant would not have been tried. Regarding women and infants, she noted that Dr. Diaz, quote, did not review mood symptoms of the last pregnancy and this postpartum period, end quote. Buddy, come on, it's okay. And did not review mood symptoms of the last pregnancy and this postpartum period, and did not review hypomanic episodes immediately after delivery, which was the beginning of Miss Clancy's postpartum psychosis. 89. Dr. Spinelli concluded she did all that she could to obtain the appropriate treatment. All right, now we're on to Dr. Zeisel. Number 90, Dr. Paul Zeisel. Sorry, I had to cough. A forensic psychologist also conducted extensive clinical interviews with Lindsay and her parents. Dr. Zeisel was the initial forensic expert to engage Lindsay in the immediate aftermath of the incident. Yes, he was the one that came right after. Dr. Zeisel concurred that the assessment of Dr. Spinelli and Dr. Philip Resnick, Dr. Zeisel opined to a reasonable degree of psychological certainty that, quote, Miss Clancy's clinical course was significantly complicated by polypharmacy and the involvement of multiple prescribers, which in effort obscured an accurate diagnosis and appropriate interventions and treatment. Furthermore, the psychotropic medication she received appeared to have paradoxically exacerbated her underlying psychiatric vulnerability, precipitating a state of manic psychosis characterized by compelling command hallucinations. Dr. Zeisel noted that Lindsay's parents conveyed profound shock and devastation at the depth of her psychological decompensation. Psychological decompensation. Words. Quote, indicating a prior lack of complete comprehension regarding the actual severity of her underlying illness. This underscores how the medical providers failed to adequately communicate the severity of Lindsay's condition or take appropriate action. J. Defendant's violation of the standard of care. 93. The standard of care required defendants to obtain a complete psychiatric history, including detailed inquiry into Lindsay's mood symptoms during and after her prior pregnancies. Had any of the providers done so, they would have learned of the hypomanic episodes that followed her second and third deliveries, which were critical indicators of bipolar disorder postpartum onset. The standard of care required defendants to recognize that Lindsay's severe adverse reaction to Zoloft, characterized by activation, worsening insomnia, and racing thoughts, was a red flag for bipolar disorder. The standard of care further required that after second antidepressant, Prozac, caused similar activations. Defendants should have diagnosed bipolar disorder and prescribed a mood stabilizer rather than continuing to try antidepressants. The standard of care required defendants to conduct appropriate testing, including blood plasma levels of medication, to determine why Lindsay was having adverse reaction to relatively low dose of medications and whether she was a slow metabolizer. Oh, hello. We talking blood testing? And would the metabolization of medications have anything? Let me ask you, Cindy, don't BRB. Let me ask you. Hello. Does your thyroid have anything to do with your metabolization of anything in your body? Just want to know, just because I'm not sure. Asking for a friend, just because. But let's not do no blood test. No blood test. I know it's the poor baby. He is right here behind my chair on the floor. There you go. K Swan's got the answer. No cures, just customers. Roll them through. Put them through the turnstile like the cattle. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Yes, jury is gone till Monday. Yeah, we talked about that earlier. Sorry, K Swan. Yeah, I forget to go back to things when just ask. I don't mind answering. Yeah, they left until Monday. Okay. This thunder, I'm trying to read fast so we don't lose internet. Y'all know me and my internet over here. Okay. Okay, so whether she was a slow metabolizer, not that, your thyroid has anything to do with metabolizing anything in your body, but it's okay. The standard of care requires defendants to follow the start low and go slow principle, then prescribing medications, particularly given Lindsay's demonstrated sensitivity to psychotropic medications. Instead, defendants added and accelerated medications in an ad hoc manner that radically increased the risk to Lindsay. The standard of care required defendants to inquire into the content of Lindsay's quote intrusive thoughts end quote, which were actually auditory hallucinations. Had they done so, they would have recognized the psychotic nature of her symptoms and the danger she posed to herself and her children, including the danger of postpartum psychosis. The standard of care required defendants to coordinate care among themselves and with other treating providers. Instead, the providers failed to communicate with one another, and Nurse Jollotta didn't even return women and infants' call to discuss Lindsay's care. The standard of care required defendants to seek collateral information from Lindsay's family member who could have provided crucial information about the severity of her conditions and her functioning at home. The standard of care required defendants to recognize that Lindsay, as a patient suffering from severe postpartum mental health disorder with suicide ideation, posed a risk of harming not only herself but also her children. The standard of care required Dr. Goodhart and McLean Hospital to provide adequate inpatient care during Lindsay's brief admission, properly evaluating her condition and ensuring appropriate discharge planning rather than discharging her after 5 days with, quote, limited, end quote, insight, judgment, and suicidal ideations back to the same providers who had been providing inadequate care. The standard of care required Dr. Diaz and women and infants to properly evaluate Lindsay, obtain an adequate psychiatric history, including inquiry into her early postpartum period, and recognize the signs of bipolar disorder rather than dismissing her severe depression scores and recommending medication changes without proper follow-ups. 103. Defendants knew or should have known that Lindsay presented a real, clear, and present danger of harm to herself and her young children. 104. Defendants' collective failures to comply with the standard of care, more likely than not, directly and proximately caused the injuries suffered by Lindsay, including Lindsay's killing her children and attempting to kill herself. Count 1. Negligent medical malpractice, personal injury. Plaintiff against all defendants. Plaintiff repeats and realleges the allegations contained above as if it's fully forced herein. All defendants owed Lindsay a duty to exercise reasonable skills and attention in their care and treatment of her psychiatric condition. Defendants failed to exercise reasonable skills and attention in caring for Lindsay, and their conduct deviated from accepted standards of medical practice as set forth above. As directed, a proximate result of the negligence of defendants, Lindsay suffered severe personal injuries, including but not limited to the loss of her 3 children, Cora, Dawson, and Callan, the development of severe postpartum psychosis with command auditory hallucinations, a thoracic spinal cord injury resulting in a permanent paralysis below the sternum, multiple closed fractures of the cervical and thoracic vertebrae, multiple rib fractures, neurogenic bowel and bladder dysfunction, impaired mobility requiring the use of a wheelchair, severe psychological trauma. Further, the acts and omissions of defendants constituted gross negligence and reckless indifference to the health, safety, and welfare of Lindsay and showed reckless disregard for the consequences which defendants knew or should have known could result from their acts or omissions. As a result, foregoing, Lindsay is entitled to recover damages from the defendants, including, without limitations, past and future medical expenses, past and future lost wages, pain and suffering, emotional distress, including the knowledge that she killed her children, loss of enjoyment of life, permanent disability, and other damages in the amount to be determined at trial. That answered somebody's question. I think that was case one. Count two, loss of parental consortium. I don't know what that word means. Y'all see that on my screen? Does it show that on my screen? No. Hang on. Consortium. I don't know what that word means. Sorry, y'all. Give me a squirrel moment because I need to know what that word means. Association of two or more independent entities, such as companies, organizations, or governments that pool their resources to a common goal. Okay. So loss of the resources, parental resources. Okay. Plaintiff repeats and realleges foregoing allegations as if fully set forth herein. At all relevant times, Lindsay was the mother of Cora, Dawson, and Callan. As directed and proximate result of the negligence, recklessness, and gross negligence of defendants, Lindsay has suffered and will continue to suffer the complete and permanent loss of her companionship, consortium, services, society, comfort, guidance, counsel, and advice of her children, Cora, Dawson, and Callan. As a result of the foregoing, Lindsay is entitled to recover damages from defendants in the amount to be determined at trial. Count three, loss of spousal consortium. I can't say that word. Plaintiff repeats and realleges the foregoing allegations set forth herein. At all relevant times, Lindsay was married to Patrick Clancy. As a direct and proximate result of the negligence, recklessness, and gross negligence of the defendants, Lindsay has suffered and will continue to suffer the loss of a normal marital relationship with her husband, including the loss of companionship, consortium, society, comfort, guidance, counsel, advice, and conjugal fellowship as a result of the devastating impact of the events of January 24, 2023 on her marriage. As a result of the foregoing, Lindsay is entitled to recover damages from defendants in the amount to be determined at trial. Count four, vicarious liability. Against Aster Mental Health, South Shore Health Systems, Inc., McLean Hospital, and Women's and Infant Hospital, Rhode Island. Plaintiff incorporated by reference, all preceding paragraphs is fully set here within. At all times relevant to this complaint, Dr. Tufts was an employee, agent, or servant of Aster Mental Health, acting within the scope of her employment. At all times relevant in this complaint, Nurse Jollotta was an employee, agent, or servant of South Shore Health Systems, acting within the scope of her employment. At all times to this complaint, Dr. Goodhart was an employee, agent, or servant of McLean Hospital, acting within the scope of her employment. It's okay, buddy. Just almost done, mommy. At all times relevant to the complaint, Dr. Diaz was employed agent or servant of Women and Infants Hospital of Rhode Island, acting within the scope of her employment. Under the doctrine of respondent superior, Aster Mental Health is vicariously liable for the negligent acts and omissions of Dr. Tufts. Under the doctrine of respondent superior, South Shore Health System, Inc. is vicariously liable for the negligent acts and omissions of Nurse Jollotta. Under the doctrine respondent superior, McLean Hospital is vicariously liable for the negligent acts and omissions of Dr. Goodhart. Under this the doctrine of respondent superior, Women's Infant Hospital of Rhode Island is vicariously liable for the negligent acts and omissions of Dr. Diaz. Prayer for relief. Wherefore, plaintiff prays this honorable court enter judgment in her favor on counts 1 through 4. Award plaintiff damages, including punitive damages allowed by law for the personal injuries suffered by Lindsay Clancy, including her physical injuries, psychological trauma, loss of consortium, with her children and her spouse, and all other damages permitted by law, plus interest as allowed by law from the date of this complaint, plus costs and attorney's fees, and grants such other and further reliefs as court deem just and appropriate. The plaintiff demands a trial by jury. You know what? I think so too. I think so too. Do y'all want to watch a little bit of let me see. Let me pull up and see what they're saying over here about the trial. What's everybody talking about? You know what? You know what? Just because. Let's see. Let's just check in and see what they're saying. It was kind of interesting to hear these men talk.
Specifically, this area, as he was the lead prosecutor.
So this was where the jury had, this is earlier today.
And specifically, this area, as he was the lead prosecutor.
Real quick, what I'm planning on is Sunday. Sunday will be, I'll go over Patrick's filing. And we'll review Patrick's filing. It is a little bit different than Lindsay's, coming from his point of view. I haven't read through everything. I skimmed through it. Like I said, I skimmed through them. I don't read them completely. I read them completely with y'all. So it was skimmed through. It is a little bit different, but we will. It'll be in the afternoon, love. It'll be in the afternoon. It'll be in the afternoon. But I'm looking to see what trial I want to pull up next. There is one that is local to us, to me and Muffins, that is coming up regarding the Texas killing fields. Was also where EquiSearch originated from. It's very close to my heart. Tim Miller, EquiSearch, and his daughter, he lost his daughter, Laura Miller. And the trial is supposed to begin on Monday, but I don't know that I will have a feed for it. So I need to try to see if I can find that. So that is kind of in the works, in my plans I need to work on looking at later this evening. So yeah, but let's listen to these guys for a minute, just because I kind of thought this was, I was listening this live when they were actually talking about this.
For how many years?
I was a prosecutor for about 25 years.
25 years. The guy was, yes, he's an OG here in terms of the Commonwealth. And Krista Ramey is also with us. She is in Los Angeles. Cody Thomas is in the Court TV studios. And we are going to spend the next however many hours together, Teresa, as we wait for any word from this jury that's hard at work. You know, is there Friday verdict? Some of the jurors apparently were cleaned up a little. The guy that wears a t-shirt was wearing a collared shirt. A lot of reading. They were talking about reading between the lines, the way that people were dressed and stuff, as to how they were coming to court. Also, another thing, all the mob with Red got to park in the back where the jury goes in and out today. So he was not mobbed by the crazies, all standing on the plant things. And what the hell was that? Yeah, so Red got to leave out the back. He parked in the back, so he wasn't mobbed today. So that was very kind for them to allow that. The tea leaves, and then this question. Rick, the question has it's left us with more questions than any real answers. What do you opine by the knife and the pill bottles wanting more?
That's a tough question.
This was what the jury asked to see today. And listening to these guys talk about it earlier kind of caught me off. And that's why I wanted, and I'm glad that they clipped this where I could find it easily.
Unfortunately, I'm a little bereft of information because what I see there is that these were items that were actually seized by Attorney Reddington after the fact. They were not seized by the Commonwealth, placed into evidence bags, locked into evidence, developing that chain of custody that follows through to the actual presentation in court. So there could be an objection to them being entered into evidence because they were not done in that formal manner. I don't know if that happened or not, but the easy answer would be that because of that, they've been marked for identification, but not entered as evidence, and therefore could not go to the jury.
And wouldn't they be back in the evidence room, in the deliberation room anyway? They wouldn't have to ask for them if they were.
In the normal course of deliberation, yes, they get all the evidence. However, that does not include weapons.
Yeah, right. Yes.
That does not include bullets. And if there's actual drugs in here, in these bottles, that could be the same rationale.
Oh, that's a great point. That is a great point. So maybe they, and Christopher Ramey, they did, the Commonwealth pointed out after Kevin Reddington used it as a prop, saying this, once she got these pills, her life went downhill. Then the Commonwealth got up and Attorney Sprague said, well, look at those pills because they should have more pills in, or they have more pills in them than they should. She wasn't taking them as instructed. What do you take on the ask from the jury here?
You know, it's interesting because the same evidence has masterfully been used by both sides here in ways, that are, opposite basically. So that, she has this, is overprescribed. She's given all of this medication, but she is not taking all of this medication. So is she compliant? When you get a new prescription, you're not necessarily, then taking that in conjunction with the other, you probably are stopping one and starting another. And so I think, wanting to see the pills, I mean, I kind of get it. I didn't think about the pills actually being in there, in the bottles still. And so that is probably why they won't let them back. But I do.
Yeah, the judge, and he said, no, they couldn't take the pill bottles back and they couldn't take the knife back into the deliberating room. That was another thing that I had thought of. And, again, if y'all remember back in some of the trial testimony while we did our talking and sidebarring and discussing, the fact that I take one bottle of meds and pour it in before the other one, put the lid on it, and throw that bottle away. We don't. So to me, looking at me personally, knowing what I do, just because you give me a bottle of pills doesn't mean that they're all from that one filled prescription in my house. I'm sorry. And you know what? Sometimes, here you go, just for general knowledge. One of the medications I take, made by two different makers. One makes it in an oval shape and one makes it in a circle shape. If you were to open my bottle right now, you're going to see a mix of circles and ovals. It's just how I do my things. So if you want me to look at a bag full of meds, no.
Think that they could have allowed them back with a bailiff so the jury could look at them, and see what how much medication was left in each bottle. I think that there was a way to show the jurors that evidence because it is evidence that was definitely important during the course of this trial and used by both sides very effectively.
Cody Thomas is monitoring the YouTube feeds that we have going out, and we've got some people watching along with us, a lot of people actually, and we're glad to have you along with us because frankly, we're going to get word before anybody else. It's our camera in the courtroom. It's our Rich, the photographer, who's on speed dial from the Commonwealth. And once there is a question or a verdict, you'll find out first right here. Cody, any chatter about the question? People opining one way or another?
Yeah, Ted, they're just putting their statements out. You know, why would it be important to see the pill bottle? Why would it be important to see the knife? Things like that. And everything else they want to say about it, Ted. But one thing I'm looking at here, we had 2 polls up. The first poll, Ted, had 53,000 votes, and the prompt was, will Lindsay Clancy be found, you know, X, Y, and Z? 68% of people say not guilty on this poll, Ted. 14% say guilty of first-degree murder, 12% guilty of second-degree murder, 6% of manslaughter. And Ted, just 4 minutes ago, we have a new poll up. What would your verdict be? So this is just the minds of the people and what they imagine this is going to turn out to be. 4 minutes ago, we already have going on 4,500 votes. 77% of people say not criminally responsible. 14% first-degree murder, 3% second-degree murder, 6% manslaughter. But overwhelmingly, Ted, between both of those polls, one at 53,000, this new one just came up 4 minutes ago, going on 5,000.
And y'all, yeah, because you remember, look right over here. Remember I showed y'all this was at the 62,000 votes earlier this afternoon? Very interesting as to what they are thinking. So I'm going to switch over here just because. So this idiot, this is where I was having a problem. I just went into this chat. I'm not going to give too much information on it. I'm just going to play it. I went into this chat. This idiot was up for discussion.
The farther, in my opinion, the farther we move the goalpost, the crazier, more and more crazy things are going to happen. Yes, there's going to be some anomalies. There's going to be some people that got misdiagnosed wrong. But if we just keep moving that goalpost and accepting everything, all of a sudden, everything's going to be okay, right? I don't know. That's just my opinion. I'm not trying to cause any issues with anyone. So I'll keep reading. You know, we just can't go around killing people. So
this is ignorance at its best.
Can't be held accountable for what you don't know is real. Yeah. I mean,
the confusion.
Okay. Well, I really appreciate all the different opinions. So thank you for all the different opinions. And I am looking at all your opinions, and I'm not trying to stir the pot. I enjoy everybody's saying. No, I do agree with taking medication. I've been on medication for too long of a time, and it has messed with my brain chemistry and getting it off. You go through certain withdrawal systems, but then I took it on myself to go see a counselor. And
okay, here, look, this is okay, because I had typed in his chat and I had told him that, be cautious is what he says, because, he wasn't telling facts. Well, then I made him mad. I told him, I said, I've streamed in trial. You have to understand the facts of the case. I'm out, because I had to leave because he was really, really spitting some big lies. And you, as a person who comes on the internet and speaks, you have to watch what you say. And especially with something like this.
Try to get on other medications. So I wouldn't just allow myself to quit cold turkey without finding another therapist, because that was my obligation as a father. So if I felt like I was depressed or something was wrong with me and something wasn't working, I would then do my research, because it's very easy to go to telehealth online, and especially today's society. And that's me. I'm not passing judgment on people.
So see, this is my problem, is people go out there and they start speaking on these things before they know a damn thing, before they have any knowledge behind it.
But I'm just saying, like,
this person,
if I could,
in their chat,
if I knew a psychiatrist wasn't fulfilling the pain I was going on deep down inside, I would switch to the next person. You know what I'm saying? So
he went so far.
Question about that when someone says I don't know in mental health. I've had ADHD my whole life. I've had SSRIs, SSNRIs. I've been on a lot of different things. And I'm not like some unstable guy. I've never thought about like hurting others, but I have anxiety, and it's to calm me down. But I would also take responsibility as a human being to go to another counselor. Okay, guys,
Wait,
this
no,
is
wait,
probably
here.
going to get clipped way out of content, but I want
Here,
to show you
here.
guys. Okay, so for the
Here,
person
look
that
what he
says
does.
that I don't know about mental
this
health,
person
I don't know
does.
about the case. Let's see if I can get up on the big
I
screen.
did, watch, look, watch.
Here is my box over the course of, I would say, 10 years.
That's what took me out. I was like, you just brought a box up. You brought a box up. You hold it so over the course of 10 years. Dude, have you lost your ever loving mind? Okay, let's skip over here. I want to get past this guy. Okay, I want to go back to these two guys talking. Okay.
Rick Grundy, what does happen if the jury comes
I
back
have
and
a hard
says
time,
not
though.
criminally responsible?
Listen to this.
So exactly as Cody pointed out, she would be committed to a state hospital. She would likely go to the secure Bridgewater State Hospital, which is a prison of sorts in that you are confined there.
Where is that? What
in
city?
Bridgewater, Massachusetts.
Oh, fair.
And,
Good name.
I could then see Attorney Reddington.
Okay, wait. I have to back up. My mother used to. She was so bad about it. You would go, and it wasn't not like prescribed medications. I'm talking like Tylenol or something. I can remember going and grabbing a bottle of Tylenol out of the back. I'm visualizing my house. The Benadryl too. We'd be looking at the labels. How old is Muffins? Grandma, how old is this? That picture just be like, it'd be, probably not even have a barcode on it type shit. Yes, she's right. I'm telling you. So my mom was bad about that.
Attempting to get her to another.
Okay, but this is them talking about what happens after if she is deemed not guilty.
In Bridgewater, Massachusetts.
Oh, fair.
And,
good name.
I could then see Attorney Reddington attempting to get her to another secure facility, perhaps a private secure facility, which would be unlikely if she's still under this question of criminal responsibility, or that she was not criminally responsible because of her mental care. But normally what happens is these people who are found not guilty by reason of criminal responsibility, they're still arguing and found to be in the medical defect mental health wise. Here, Attorney Reddington took a tack and kind of had to, that she was in a psychosis but came out of it, and medical changes, she's fine, she's okay, she's out of it. So she would be in a.
They went home for the weekend, so we won't know anything till Monday. How are you? Look, Jen, you know what? You missed the best part of the day. The best part of the day was when we first started and I realized I had my shirt on backwards, okay? And I had to turn my camera off and turn my shirt around because I seen Stroud across my chest. It's been a day. Glad to see you, Jen. I hope you have a beautiful weekend. I'm just sitting here bullshitting because Hector's gone, y'all. I don't have no reason to be. I have nothing to talk about. I reviewed what I wanted to talk about. I went. My dog. Look, Mita's still sitting right here. He's so scared. I'm gonna leave, y'all. I'm gonna go give my doggies their anxiety medicine, and put on those wings for dinner tonight because we eat hot wings while we drink a couple of drinks, and we're gonna watch the Texans game tonight. And there's Lola. Okay, you can come over here. Up, you gotta come on. I know you don't understand. You don't understand arm of the chair. Okay, here, come on. Nope. Meat pushed her away. Meat says, nope, not today, Lola. He says, I'm only getting close to mommy because my anxiety's bad. All right, y'all. It's been a fun day. Look, my hair's just thrown up here in a bun. Barely have it. It's, you know what? It's Friday. It's Friday. It has been a long day. that was a very interesting read through all of that. We will, like I said, I'm gonna try Sunday afternoon to look at the Patrick's and go over Patrick's, and I'm going to see about that trial for James Elmore. Um, Actually, here, let me just give y'all a quick review of what it is. This is Texas killing field suspect pleads. Let's see. Add to the screen. I'm over here showing y'all, like y'all can see what I'm talking about. This is a trial that I want to do. So he pled not guilty. James Elmore is charged with secondary felony manslaughter for alleged causing death of Laura Miller in September 1984. He is accused of preparing a vial of cocaine for his alleged friend and prime suspect Clyde Hendricks to give to Miller. Clyde is deceased. So just as they went to do all these indictments, it's horrible. Let me read through this just real quick with y'all. James Elmore, a Bay Cliff man who is about to stand trial for allegedly playing a part in the decades-old Texas killing fields case, pleaded not guilty during a pretrial hearing on August 21st. Elmore, 61, is charged with secondary felony manslaughter for allegedly causing the death of Laura Miller, September 1984. He's accused of preparing a vial of cocaine for his alleged friend and prime suspect Clyde Hendrick to give to Miller. Hendrick died in March, just before a scheduled grand jury presentation. The Galveston County grand jury indicted Elmore earlier this year, charging him with manslaughter and felony tampering with evidence in the death of Miller, as well as additional tampering evidence in the death of Audrey Cook. So Audrey Cook and Laura Miller were found together or around the same time. And then what happened, Laura Miller's father is Tim Miller, who is and runs EquiSearch, Texas EquiSearch. It is where they use the horses to go out and search fields and stuff. And he has been fighting for his daughter and has never gave up on getting justice for his daughter. And that was in 1984. I remember as a teenager learning about it. So that I have followed this case for years and years and years. It was one of the first ones I could ever remember. At the pretrial hearing, District Court Judge Jeff Jones said Elmore's trial will start at 1 p.m. on August 31st with jury selection. Jones said he expects court have a pool of about 25 potential jurors. Also said Elmore's case was prioritized and moved to the front of the docket. Indictments are part of a renewed effort to hold accountable those responsible for the deaths around 30 women whose bodies were found in an area in Galveston County referred to as the Texas killing fields. That's pictures of the fields. Killing fields are centered near an intersection of Calder Road and Irvin Street in League City, which is located between Houston and Galveston. Between 1984 and 1991, in particular, 4 women's bodies were found. And unidentified Heidi Faye Villarreal, Cook, and Miller, and Donna Prudhomme. So he also faces unrelated charges, including possession of child pornography and possession of visual materials depicting sexual assault. They were filed after the search warrant, and after the search warrant was served on Elmore's home in April. Warrant asserts when Elmore was indicted, his phone was taken. Shortly after, Texas City police officer alleged multiple images of child porn were found on Elmore's phone. Search warrant called for forensic examination of any computer-related media found at Elmore's home, took for potential evidence, criminal activity, specifically possession or promotion of child porn, as well as Attorney Williams. But let me tell y'all this. Even with the knowledge of this, I can tell y'all that he Hector just walked in, totally squirreled me. The you didn't get a jury summons, girl. You couldn't be quiet and keep your mouth from being biased. I'm gonna tell you right now. I always get 3 different types of jury summons when I get one. That's interesting. Yeah, so I had a stream put together, and then that's when the puppies were born. Y'all remember the puppy gate? I had a stream put together where I was going to go over who Tim Miller was and everything, and who his daughter was, and as a father who never gave up on getting justice for his child, Laura Miller. And I'm thinking if I can find out whether or not we'll be able to stream the trial or not, I would like to stream that trial next. So if they're going to be doing picking jury on Monday, maybe Monday while we're waiting on verdict, I can do my Tim Miller stream and, well, Killing Fields team and give y'all my introduction of who Tim Miller is with EquiSearch, searching for his daughter, Laura, and the start of that story if we get to do the trial. If not, I'll find something. We'll do something Monday. But plan Sunday at some point in the afternoon. Make sure you have your notifications set to all. Sunday afternoon, I will go over the Patrick's lawsuit filing, his civil suit, and we'll go from there. So we still have no verdict, guys. We still have no verdict. So I am going to go give my medication, not my medication, my dog's anxiety medication to them. So, but before we leave, as always,
You is smart. You is kind. You is important.
all right, I'm going to go. Y'all have a great rest of your evening. I'm going to watch some football. And till I see y'all Sunday, peace. Rubber out. Thanks for being here and hanging as always. Bye, guys.